Hey guys, uh, can everyone hear me? I think you can. I can hear myself. So I'm just going to wait so I can find out if you can actually all hear me. Cool, cool. Okay, great. So you can. That's awesome. So I'm Robyn. This time I have the right name under me there. Um, and I'm back again doing reviews on your guys' portfolios and your submissions on the Rookies website. We had a little form for people to fill out if they wanted their stuff reviewed. And we got quite a few responses, so thank you. And we just randomly picked one. And the one that we picked today was Gina Graff, who is a player on the Rookies. And she has a really nice portfolio. Let me just bring that up. It was a show reel with a few shots in it, and they were really great. So let me just get that for you guys to check out. There we go. Okay, so this is it. Let me just show you. Here's her profile on the Rookies if you guys want to go check her out. It's a very nice portfolio. So yeah, you can see, I mean, it's got some very dynamic shots, some complicated but really well executed movements here. Also, like, over here while the character's walking, you definitely get a feel of like he's not a happy guy right now. He's pretty pissed off looking. And it's really accentuated a lot by how quickly his head sort of twitches from side to side. And the shot here, there's a lot of stretching going on, which gives it a really cool effect. So all in all, yeah, it's a great reel. So what else can I say? That's my review. I'm done. Thanks. No, I'm kidding. I mean, even the best people can always get some sort of, feedback or critiquing of some sort. I mean, in animation, you can always do more to make it better. So let me just go through it. I'll go through it a little more slowly, and we'll just see shot by shot, because at first glance, you just look at it and you're like, wow, that's really awesome, man. So well done, Gina. It looks, you have a really great show reel here. So in this first shot, it's a quick shot. It's pretty action packed, and the timing is really great in some parts, but just in some sections it seems just a little bit laggy. You're left waiting for the next action to happen, or for the rest of the body to follow through on the action, especially here at the top there. I think that stands out quite a lot, that action over there, because he's kind of left just sort of floating in the air for quite a while there. It's almost as if he actually steps on something in the air. Just get my pen here. This foot here, there, it kind of like pauses in the air, and then his body almost, I know it's reacting to him pulling back that arrow, but it almost sort of looks like he's actually stepping on something, and then his body's reacting. I don't know if the timing could just be offset a little bit more for those actions, but I do think that he is just holding in the air just a little bit too long over there. And it's a really powerful jump up, And that shooting up, that's great timing. But over here, I know he holds for a little in the air. That would always happen, but it feels a little too long over here. This weight distribution, that was something that sort of jumped out at me the first time I watched it. And I think because it's so quick, a lot of people wouldn't notice that maybe. I mean, all in all, it is a great shot, but just over here, this anti jumps and his weight is coming so far over, and then he sort of swings around, and then his weight comes back onto that leg. But this whole movement where he's coming around like this, it just, the weight distribution is just a little bit off over here. That ankle would definitely just collapse and he would fall sideways. And it does stand out quite a bit. So if you could just bring it so that the weight is just more on the leg. So if he was pushed more that way and the knee pushed more that way, and his hips also just a little bit more to that side so that you can see that the weight is actually on this leg, because at the moment he's just going to fall straight downwards over there. So you can get away with exaggeration and stuff like that for the impact of the shot. I mean, obviously you can't always be super realistic in animation. That's not what animation is about. Exaggeration is really important, but it's just a little bit too much in that shot, and it does stand out quite a bit. So I would just shift his weight over slightly, just slightly over there, so that you can see that the weight is distributed on that foot, because that's the only place it could be. I love the swapping of the bow between the hands. It's very dynamic. From that hand to that hand, that's very cool. So over around here, while he's up in the air, I think it would help the silhouette a lot and just the interest of the shot if one of his legs was just extended slightly more. So this one is bent more. So probably if this one, because at the moment it is lower, if you just had it actually still straightening out there so that it was like that, so that they're not both, you know, so on the same level, because it would just make for a bit more of a more interesting silhouette. And maybe this part over here wouldn't feel as stilted there if you just had that leg slightly further down like that. So over here again, also, it's good to have a bit of, can I say, like a bit of a contrast between your limbs, because even here they're very much on the same level, and the feet here, obviously they are offset a little, but it's just a little too close. So if he's going to come down and this leg is going to take the brunt of his weight, it should be just a little bit lower, just for that nice, you know, that difference, that interest in a pose. So these could be offset a little. This arm could be up a bit more here. This one could be a bit down like that. And then you could have the bow coming like that. And then for a nice contrast, you could have the feet going this way. And that would just make for a better silhouette. Again, a slightly more interesting shot. And the feet landed, they maybe one frame apart here when they land on the ground. It's actually pretty much, they both hit the ground pretty much at exactly the same time. So I would just offset this foot just by a few frames so it hits the ground just a few frames later than the other one. So I love here as he lands, there's a nice bounce and everything sort of settles. He readjusts his weight to the back. It's very nice. But then it's sort of just, you've got something happening with the hair there while it settles, but the rest of his body is just dead, dead, dead still. So it'd be nice just to see a very slight bit of settling, just a little as the hair's settling. So maybe, you know, his fingers could just relax very slightly a bit more, or curl a little, or his head could just come down and settle just very slightly, just to finish off that movement, because you've still got the hair settling, but it would be great if you could just have just the extremities sort of settling a little further there. So this walk cycle, I mean, it's great. It's very expressive. It's very cool for a walk cycle. You've got the hips going nicely. You've got the movement in the shoulders. You've got a bit of squash and stretch. As he settles down, you've got that bit of squash. And it's a really nice walk cycle. If anything, I mean, if you're being like really picky, I would maybe just tone down the jerkiness of the head very, very slightly. But that's, you know, that's if you're being like very picky. It's a really great walk cycle. So this is a very interesting shot. And I really loved it when I saw it because of that stretch. You don't see it that much in 3D, but I do think that it is being exaggerated quite a lot. And I would maybe just tone it down a little bit in some spots, especially here with the axe, because that is just such a huge block of just this solid object. And it really catches your eye as it happens. And I think it's just a little bit too much front and center for the shot. It kind of takes all your attention away from anything else happening. So I think it just, the stretch, it's a really cool effect, but it should be more of a subconscious realization of something happening, this exaggeration, you know, rather than an extremely in your face thing. I do love it though. But I do think it could just be toned down just a little. So this is all really cool. The weight is great. You can definitely feel, you know, how heavy the axe is. I would just over here have a slight bend to the arm as she brings it up, and the weight is readjusted to being up here. So over here, she's pulling against the weight because it's lower. But when it comes up here, her arm would just bend a little to kind of readjust to the fact that the weight is now above her and she has to push against it, rather than over here where she's pulling against it. That's great. Again, that weight, you can definitely feel it. Over here, I would just watch. There's a little bit of an ankle pop. You don't really notice it much. That's just if you're being very pedantic over here. So you've got this nice clean line of this leg, and that's a great looking silhouette there. And then it just sort of pops that ankle out there, and then it settles back over there. So this is very cool. I like how the hair swings. It's nice and sudden. As she jumps, kind of grabs your attention here, this thing with the ankles. And I get that's actually, it's more of a rig problem, but it looks like the rig is breaking, and it's definitely something you want to try and avoid as much as possible. And it is quite the camera is pretty much focused on that part there. So maybe if you had a slightly different camera movement, although it's very cool and dynamic the way the camera goes here with her movements, but it is very much in your face there because it's pretty much the center point of what the camera is looking at right now. As she brings this gun up, we don't get to see, you know, it kind of feels like a nice arc could be there. It's a very straight on movement, especially from this camera angle. So maybe if the gun was here and then it gets, so it's sort of here, but if it got brought around in a slight arc up, around, just for a bit of more of a smoother movement. Arcs are always good to just keep in mind. So this is also a very cool, it's a good way to end it, especially a good way to end your reel. It's very impactful and dramatic. But you see, she brings her head around here and her hair goes back, you know, reacting to that head movement. And then it just chills there the whole time. It never swings back and then, you know, settles, which it would. So that's, especially with such a dynamic camera movement, I mean, it's not like it was a freeze frame. So I would just maybe be cognizant of that. Have the hair settle a little, have the arms settle into this position, and then just watch your silhouette here. It's always good with fingers and hands to just break them up slightly. So if a hand could just be slightly more rigid, because I feel like it would be quite a rigid pose. She's sort of on high alert here. She's about to like shoot someone and she's, you know, checking out the scene. She's on high alert. So if her hands could just be slightly more rigid and if her fingers were just apart, just to break up that clump, because at the moment it's just a clump of fingers here. And it's always good to break up fingers. If you don't always have to have each one separate, but even if you just had maybe, you know, the pinky sticking out a little and then the rest of the hands, and then maybe this one could just be breaking up that silhouette just a little, just to give your silhouette a little more definition. It's always good to be aware of the negative space between limbs. And that's pretty much it. That's the feedback I have for this. Like I said, it really is, it's a great reel. It's very strong. And you can see, I mean, it's very dynamic. The movements are great. For the most part, like there's not much you can really, you know, critique here. It's really good. It's a strong reel. So yeah, that's it. Those are my notes. Let me figure this out. If I take that off. There we go. Cool. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for watching. And if you want to get some critique and feedback on any of your shots or your show reel, I might not do a whole show reel. It depends on, you know, how long the reel is. This was just a few shots, so it was okay to do. But just there's a form. If you're on the Discord, you'll see that I'm also on there, and there's a form you guys can fill out to submit if you want to get your stuff looked at and get some feedback on it. So thanks again for watching. If you guys have anything you want to know or ask, feel free. I've got the chat open this time. Last time I didn't even realize there was a chat open. So Let me know if there's anything you want to know or ask. And otherwise, if you do want to get yours looked at, then submit the form. You are most welcome. I hope that this is useful for you guys. Thanks for watching.